morning. It is 5:58 a.m. Beautiful day. Gray skies outside, but that's fine. So, I am currently still working on the border break figure. Just to remind us what we're working on today, I am working on the... Oh Lord, this thing has a name, and I don't know what its name is. And it's funny, because I tend to chide builders who don't really have a full understanding of the model they're working on, which means I need to correct my behavior, because you can be a lot of things in this world, but don't be a hypocrite. It's a dick move. Okay, so in any case, I managed to get the head, get this over here, managed to get the head built, torso, arm, and waist, and I'm going to flip my video source here so not everything looks upside down. Alright, I just want to make sure that that's not mirrored. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So this is mostly B-roll. I'm gonna just let this record while I snap together the arm and one of the legs. I may or may not keep the audio, I'm not entirely certain. But my initial thoughts with this model is I am extremely impressed with the engineering of this kit. Every nub mark, or every place where you would snap the model from the sprue, has been engineered to be hidden once it's put in place. It is actually rather remarkable how they did that. And the clear parts are extremely vibrant against the gray and the black, and very sharp. I am going to have a hard time painting this, I think, because I like not just the color, but the finish of the plastic so much. It's not typical Bandai plastic that looks very toyish. It actually has like a satin finish to it on the black and gray. It's really, really nice. This might be one of the first, or maybe the only model kit I've ever built where I almost really don't want to paint it because it just looks so nice out of the box. Like, maybe panel line it and give it a top coat, a matte coat, or a satin finish, again, to go with the plastic. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not entirely certain. Okay, so in any case, I am currently on step 35. I did some building last night. I'm not entirely familiar with this process of recording myself building. I've been building for years now. And this is the first time I've ever felt like a total noob. At least the first time in a very long time, because this is not what I normally do. But I have a new place, and I have a proper build station now. I'm not just snapping up parts in my living room and losing my mind every time a part goes flying and lands in the carpet, to disappear forever into the ether. No, instead, I get to build on this lovely, lovely desk. I should have made some coffee. I still can. I can just pause the video and go brew a pot, come back to this. I'm gonna walk my dog soon anyway, so. Well, maybe not soon. It's 6 a.m. Jeez. Any of you wondering why I'm awake at 6 o'clock in the morning? It is because I work the overnight, and this is my usual sleeping pattern. Beautiful. Alright, so I'll talk a little bit about my build process. These are techniques that I've picked up over years of trial and error, and mostly copying the Japanese modelers out there about double cutting the parts from the sprue. And for those of you who don't know what a double cut is, I'll show you an example. We're gonna double cut this part here, E26. I'll show you real quick what that means. Let's see here, E2. Okay, so you notice I have two nippers here. I have a long nose nipper here with a double blade, okay? And I have Old Reliable over here, who unfortunately one of the blades got broken due to gravity. But this is a side cutter where one of the blades is actually dull and the other one is extremely sharp. This is blade number 2. Blade number 1, what we're going to do here is E26, okay? I'm going to try and do this as close to the camera as I can. So there's where the part is, and then you've got where it connects to the sprue, and then of course the rest of the sprue. And typically what a lot of people will do is they'll cut flush to the part right here. You see that? And just nip away. And what I'll actually end up doing is the plastic above you will push against the blade, and you'll end up cutting too deep into the part, and you'll end up gouging the part. And you end up with these large gouge marks and stress marks, and it damages the part. Frankly, it looks really unprofessional. Not that we're trying to be professionals here. I mean, I'm not getting paid for this. I probably never will. I'd rather not be paid for doing something I love. Trust me, I've tried that before. It did not work out. So instead, what we're going to do here is we're actually going to cut flush to the connection point on the sprue. Okay, cut that there, there, and there, and there it goes. So what that leaves us with, if the camera will focus, you have these nubs rather, on the part. And that's where our flush cutters come into play. So now we can cut flush to the part as close as we can. Nip those away. And what you're left with is very little damage, if any, to the part. I promise you I'm going to get a much better camera now that I've confirmed rather that I'm actually rather enjoying doing this. This is the second time I've recorded myself building. The first time was the test video I did yesterday just to get a feel for what this would be like. I'm a fairly private individual. Let's set that part aside for now. That being said, I'm extremely antisocial. partially due to the nature of my job. It makes it difficult for me to be social with people, even before this COVID-19 incident. So it's hard. It's difficult for me to even think about recording myself, making videos. But I was talking about it with my wife. She thinks it's a good idea. And I have yet to contradict that woman because she is a goddamn genius. So, there you go. I think I'm gonna have to break tradition and build with my elbows on the table. My grandmother is currently doing backflips in her grave right now, undoing years of education about not eating with your elbows on the table. It was rude. Sorry, Grandma. I have to break away with tradition and build a little closer to my camera. That way, 90% of my view isn't just open dead air. I'm not entirely sure if that would be something anyone would want to watch. Okay. So, a little exclamation point here trying to alert us to something. Okay. Orientation of the part. That's fine. Okay. The actual purpose of this B-roll here is I'm debating whether or not I'll do a like a fast motion effect where you'll get a little bit of view of how I build things and how it's built and how the parts come together. There's a YouTuber out there that I absolutely am in love with, who does a particular series of videos that have been described as Ken Burns meets Whiskey and Explosions, called Text Talks. And to say that he has been an inspiration for me would be an understatement. That man could read the phone book and I would listen to it on my way to work every goddamn day. And I'm not trying to emulate his voice. It's 6 a.m. and I'm trying to be relatively quiet. But I realized watching his videos super comfy, and I figure, well, if that man can get an audience like me, and I'm just an ordinary schmuck, by just being himself and talking into the camera and, really talking about things that he's passionate about, then I can do the same thing. So here I am, doing the same thing. Seriously though, his lore videos are impeccable. I have been waiting with bated breath for Exodus to Elementals Part 2, because Part 1 ends on such a cliffhanger, and the clan invasion in Battletech is my absolute favorite era in Battletech, because that's where the cartoon takes place in. And that cartoon gets a lot of shit, but there was very few things in this universe when I was a child that could get me to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and Battletech was one of them. 4:30 or 5:30 a.m., whichever one it was, on a school day no less. And I was up with the sun, or before the sun, just to watch that really shitty cartoon. Because I love mechs. I giant robots. I love mobile suits. I love Veritex, Valkyries. I love them all, man. I love giant, stompy, killer robots. And I guess one of these days I might explore as to why I love giant, killer, stompy robots. Beyond, because they're fucking cool. Giant, killer, stompy robots are the coolest thing in the world, and you cannot convince me otherwise. So yeah, I'd wake up 4:30 in the morning on a school day to watch this really bad cartoon called Battletech, and fell in love with the franchise ever since. But it's not my only love, not by a long shot. They say you shouldn't have more than one waifu, but boy oh boy, I have a lot of waifus. And one of them was Exo Squad, the best morning cartoon ever made in the United States. Don't at me. If you haven't seen Exo Squad, if you've never heard of it, you should track that down. Exo Squad is the most mature, well-told science fiction story in cartoons made in America, and it absolutely deserves a remake. And I wouldn't do much to the remake. I would literally just redesign the mechs and redo the character designs, and that's it. I would not touch that story with a 20-foot pole because it is damn near perfect. No need to update it. It's kind of like, it was written in that era of sci-fi where you could just tell a good, brutal story without really hand-holding anyone. I don't know, I'm ranting at this point. It's good. You should track it down. I highly recommend it. Hell, actually, now that I think about it, I really loved the mech designs in Exo Squad, but they're very toyetic, and that's obviously on purpose. The show's gotta sell toys. At least it used to back then. That's why I feel like if it was ever remade, they could really, really go down the rabbit hole on making the E-frames, as they called it, as realistic looking as possible. And I would really emphasize realistic looking because, they don't have to resemble modern technology. They can look cool as hell. But damn, that would be an awesome sight. New Exo Squad. Let me just take a moment here so I could get my orientation. What are you trying to tell me, Part? Where are you trying to go? Let's see here, K29. Oh, because I'm holding K2. Okay, got it. Yeah. It's a bit of an unusual build because many of the parts are asymmetrical, which I love. I think that's super cool. I needed a break from building bog standard Gunpla because unfortunately Gundam, as much as, and let me state for the record how much I love the Gundam franchise as a whole, not just Universal Century, but all of Gundam. Even Age had a few reasons to exist, but the model kits are getting very, very generic, unfortunately, and I think that might just be, and believe it or not, I think the reasoning is because Bandai's engineering is so good and so precise that it's actually getting kind of boring building the parts, building the kits, rather. And I know what that sounds like, but it's true, frankly. I should have built this one before. Okay, it's fine. Excuse me. It's why I'll give you an example. One of the best gunpla specific kits I've built in the last year or so was this guy right here. Pull him into view. This is the Master Grade Turn X, designed by Sid Mead, rest in peace. And it is easily the most beautiful kit Bandai has ever produced. Again, don't at me. And that's really due to Sid Mead's unique design. The Turn X, it somehow looks symmetrical while being completely asymmetrical. No two sides look the same. No two, like the legs are completely different from each other. The arms are completely different from each other. The backpack is completely asymmetrical. The only symmetrical parts on this kit would be the shoulders and the head, and that's it. And yet somehow the thing not only works, but is just gorgeous to stare at, and so much fun to build, because if you're the kind of person like me who spends a dangerous amount of money, on model kits, and if that's the hobby that you choose to do, you'll come to note that, especially when you build Bandai kits, that the build process is pretty much the same all around. You know, most builds will start with the torso, and then they'll move on to the head, and then arms and legs, and you put the thing together, you build your weapons, and you're done. And this kit's kind of doing the same thing too, but man, building that Turn X, it was so weird. It was the same thing. You know, you start with the torso and the head, arms and legs, shoulders and backpack and so forth. But while you were building it, you could barely tell what the hell you were building. It was spectacular, frankly. Like I was saying before, if you build for a while, you'll start getting used to how things are made. And it can get a little boring, especially when you're building several hundred kits throughout a career. I hesitate to say thousands, but you'll never know. 20 years from now, I'll probably hit the 1,000 mark. 20, try 10. In any case, yeah. I have no idea how much of this audio is going to be kept. How long have I been recording? Oh, about 20 minutes. I'll tell you what, I will cut this video short at the half-hour mark and just upload that. And I'm looking for the seed plate. Oh, I'm staring right at it, of course. Ooh, I hope you didn't have to hear that. Sorry. There you are. I'll cut the video at the half-hour mark and save stream of thought stuff like this for a live stream. If anyone would be so interested in doing that, I would imagine I would get many views right now. Nobody knows who the hell I am. But we'll see. My daughter tells me to be more confident in these videos, but I'm just trying to be me. She makes a really good point that little girl's a genius. And, yeah, I'll be more confident as I come along, I promise. Hit that with the old sanding stick here. That's nice. Yeah. I promise you I'm not trying to do a Bob Ross impression, even though I used to wake up to that man every morning too and watch his show every chance I got when I was a kid. Paint some happy little trees. If you ever got to experience waking up in the morning, tuning in a TV to Bob Ross, it was a magical time. Used to be him, and then right after him, or before, whichever, it was him and Mr. Wizard. Mr. Wizard was like a science show for kids, and it wasn't very popular, I would imagine. But I'm sure someone's saved recordings of Mr. Wizard and put them out there on YouTube. But Mr. Wizard was kind of like your Bill Nye and your Beakman's World. And it was a science show for kids, and it wasn't particularly exciting. He didn't yell or have funny jokes like Bill Nye did, but it was relaxing. And even as a kid, I very much appreciated just a lack of chaos. I wasn't, God, man, growing up in that extreme 90s era was a nightmare for me. I did not enjoy all the yelling and screaming. It comes from living in a household with a lot of kids. You had to, especially being the oldest, a lot of yelling and screaming. Not violent yelling and screaming, mind you. Just, a loud family, and if you want to get anywhere in the world, you got to speak up. And speaking up usually means you're very loud, and I appreciated it at the time, but man, as a grown man, look at that articulation. That is, sorry, I want to distract myself for a second here. That is nice. That's nice articulation. The grown man, I really, really appreciate just a quiet household. And I was lucky enough to marry a woman who also appreciates a quiet household. So that's why I can sit here and whisper into the mic. I hope this is recording all my audio. I don't really feel like being any louder than this. It's a nice mic, so we'll see. No, I'm losing my track of thought here. Anyways, managed to build an arm in 27 minutes. Not bad, not bad. Okay. Says here, hands come next. And then, looks like we're going to start building the legs. Starting with the thighs and then moving on to the legs, or rather, legs first, then thigh. Hip joint, feet, right here. And then these hip thrusters, which are really cool. And once the hip thrusters are done, final assembly. And then you move on to build the weapons. Get the weapons in place, and then you get to play your fancy robot toy, which is frankly the best part. I'm noticing this kit very much reminds me of the Scope Dog, which I have an example of, actually. I have the Bandai 1/20th scale Scope Dog that I'm also working on. It's gray right now because it's primed, but again, another kit I highly, highly recommend. It is just the best. There's all kinds of internal detail. The cockpit is fully detailed. The scope moves, and it comes with these beautiful jewel pieces that go inside the lenses there, which obviously I set aside so they didn't get paint on them, but it's fully articulated. Fingers move. This is made when Bandai did the whole 3-in-1 finger joint process. The whole thing can kneel to the ground. The articulation is fantastic. It's got the spikes in the ankles to stomp them dead. It's got a grappler launcher in the back. All these parts here, these are ammo cases. These are dummies. Well, rather, the middle one is a dummy. These two are not. These actually can come out. And if I feel like taking them out, you know what? No, screw that. And the missile pod. This is the Burkoff Squad version of the Scope Dog, and it is a beast of a kit. I love this kit. So anyways, the obviously aesthetics-wise, that you couldn't be more different, and they're not the same scale. This is 1/35th scale. This is 1/20th scale, and I would love a 1/20th scale version of this, but they both, at least after doing a little research on the game, they're both pretty much the same in terms of like how they function in universe. So the scope dog here is as real robot as you can get, I think, in terms of in anime, where they were not special. The scope dog was one of millions of other scope dogs, and it would get blown up routinely. I mean, it was the hero mech, and it got destroyed more often than like Zaku would in the original Mobile Suit Gundam. And I mean, they were literally powered by explodium. They had this power fuel source called Jijirium that was so flammable and so unstable that these things would cook off. Just, and there's actually a plot point several times, actually. Anyways, I'm rambling. The border break mechs in game are kind of the same thing, where this entire section here is the cockpit, like the pilot itself. His feet would be here, his head would be somewhere back here, and his whole torso is the cockpit itself. Unlike, say, like a Gundam, where, you know, maybe this would be the hatch and the pilot would be like right there, tiny little guy. In any case, and this thing skates around on the ground like the scope dog does, and very quickly passing half an hour. So this is where I'm going to stop the video for now. Stay safe out there. I'll record more once this thing is done, and I will see you next time.